Welcome to CEO Sales Sessions. I'm Gazi, your host, former political staffer turned entrepreneur, and founder of Sales Beyond Scripts, where I build CEOs whose sales feel effortless and profit becomes inevitable. I've spent years in the highest pressure rooms, both in politics and business, and I'm bringing you everything I learned straight to this mic. No fluff, no filler, just actionable steps, tough love, and big thinking alongside some of the sharpest CEOs in the game. Let's get to work. Oh, hello, and welcome to another episode. Today is a solo episode, and I'm bringing you really deep into my journal entry. I've been thinking and sitting with this idea of how to sell without feeling icky. And if you know anything about me, if you've been following me on social media, you know that one of the most important part of sales for me is the ethics. To sell in a way that is ethical, that feels good, and doesn't feel pushy or icky or, like that feeling you get when you walk at the mall and somebody's like, "Excuse me, miss, can I just show you this thing?" That like pressured feeling that comes with sales. So today I want to share with you really my perspective on how to sell without feeling pushy, because the truth is, you and I both know exactly when someone is about to sell to us. You know that feeling. You can also feel it. It's like the tone shifts, the energy changes, and suddenly it feels like we're not even in a conversation anymore. It's very clear that this is a pitch. And when you feel that shift, that's what feels icky in the buying process. So today I want to talk about a more sophisticated and elevated way of selling, and to give you some tips and tools so that you can sell in a way that feels ethical, that feels human, and that actually works for you and your business. The first point I want to share with you is this idea of scripts and why I'm against scripts. Now, it's important for me to tell you that there was actually a time where I used scripts in sales. So I'm not totally against it, and I've seen personally the value of having a script available to me so I follow structure of the buying conversation. But, right now it's 2026, the time of this recording. I think the rigid script era is over, and AI is the reason because of that, because people are more discerning than ever. We are being sold to constantly, and half of it is AI, and we know that. So because of that, people can smell, you can literally smell this from a mile away. A script reads as fake. You can feel it even energetically. I know when someone is reading off of a script. And when I feel that, the moment I sense that they're reading off of a script, I lose that trust right away. It's not helping and building trust. It actually does the opposite of that. And the vibe that I get when I feel that you're reading off of a script in a buying conversation is that it signals to me that you're performing. And when you're performing, you're not listening. And that's what sales really is about. So if you're so focused on reading that script, that energy is what makes the buying conversation feel icky. So the way to stand out and the way to do it in a way that feels good is do the opposite of what everyone is doing. So while everyone is using scripts and repeating the same questions, being real is truly your advantage. Listening genuinely is truly going to set you apart. So I hope you don't feel that I'm saying you shouldn't use scripts. If it's working for you, then perfect. But I want you to ask yourself, if somebody performed in this way for you, how would that feel? Because I could tell you, I've been on the receiving end of someone clearly using a script that was like bro marketing, that felt like it was really like sales bro-y. And I'm just like, that's not Gazi. Like, I'm not the type to pressure on a call, but that's what the scripts were suggesting to me. So when I took my route of just being Authentic Gazi, which is my brand, it literally felt like, oh, it's easier if I'm not performing the script. It feels and comes across as more genuine because when I'm reading off of a script, I'm just wondering, what's the next question? And when you're thinking, what's the next question to ask on a sales call, you've right away stopped listening. So right away, you're not in service of that person anymore. You're thinking about yourself. What's the next question to ask? What's the next question? And that's just not my vibe of selling, to be honest. So I just wanted to share that POV with you of sometimes just being yourself and moving away from those rigid scripts is really going to help you stand out. The second point I want to share with you, it's rigid selling builds resistance. It puts the armor up. So when someone feels the script, right away their guard goes up, right? When you feel like someone is trying to take advantage of you, is trying to get money from you, and they care about closing the deal more than they care about you, when you sense that in a buying conversation, right away, your guard is up. So every pushy tactic that you're using, it actually creates buyer resistance. You are literally making the sale harder for yourself. So when people talk about objection handling, I find that when we're using these rigid questions in buying conversations, it doesn't build trust. I brought that up with you in my first point as well. So it's this is the whole problem with the sales bro approach, is it optimizes for control, and they're trying to set the tone and show the agenda and who's the boss on this call. But that actually creates more buyer resistance, and that doesn't create safety, and that doesn't allow people to open up. So when you're asking questions that are strategic for closing, for example, one of the questions that it really irks me when people ask, how serious are you about this goal? Why now? Why now? Why do you want to solve this problem now? Why is it important now? It's sure, I see the value in asking that question, but it's very clear that you're trying to get them to say something to prove why now is the time. Again, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just not my vibe. And the people that I'm working with, they're looking for a more sophisticated and ethical approach where it doesn't feel like I'm trying to corner someone for a sale. And these rigid questions that come up in your typical script that, coaches are selling to you online, it's just not working for me. And I'm finding, side note, so many people are using the same questions in the DM, the same questions on the buying conversation. It's dude, I see right through that. Y'all are all asking the same question. So I know that you're not even trying to get to know me. You're just trying to get through your script. Okay, next point in my rant about how not to make sales icky. It is this point, and I stand by this, is the best salesperson is the one who talks the least. So a lot of times, sales reps are asking me, what's the right question to ask, or how should I frame my pitch? And they want to spend so much time talking about the actual offer and the buying part of the conversation that they miss the point of a sales call, which is to listen and ask open-ended questions that allow you to listen even deeper. So let me say that again. The point of a sales call is to ask open-ended questions so that we open the conversation for them to talk and for us to listen. So you're not talking and pitching the whole time. You're asking questions and then shutting up and then listening and listening to what they're saying so that based on what they're saying, you're asking the next best question. When you listen, people can feel that. And that's what earns trust in a buying conversation. It's not just the pitch. It's everything leading up to the pitch where you've proven that you care about this person and you're listening and you're building trust and you're just there to listen and understand how you might be able to help them. So the person asking the better questions is the one leading. I want you to think about it as open-ended and powerful. So not yes or no surface questions. And this is also something Amani and I were talking about in our conversation around landing partnership and sponsorship deals, is you're not asking yes or no questions. Like, do you see how this program could work for you? It's like, yes or no. That's a bad question. A good question is open-ended. It's allowing for the yap to begin. The right question knocks on the door. It's just like the tip of the iceberg, and then just like the door opens and the convo flows. And I don't really even want to tell you what those questions are, even though I know you want to be looking for that, because every buying conversation in every industry is unique. So, sure, there are best practice frameworks for sales conversations, but the questions that, for example, a painter versus an accountant might be asking are different. So, no two industries should be using the same script because then it doesn't feel genuine. So, instead of trying to memorize a script, this is my fourth point that I want to share with you, is I want you to think about the buying conversation in this lens. It's like, I want you to know the map so you never need the script. So, every sales conversation is following a simple flow, a map, a destination. We're mapping out where they are now. Where do they want to go? What is in the way? And can you take them from A to B? So when you hold that map, when you understand truly the journey of the buying conversation, you're not thinking about the next question because you know where you're going. You know what to ask next because you know generally where you're taking this conversation. So when you know generally where you're taking this conversation, you don't need to stick to one route. You just need to know where to turn. You need to know what highway to get on and what highway to get off. But if you make a left turn, you know where you have to come back to. So there's this sense of trust and also surrendering to the conversation. I love a mix between structure and flow. So when you know the map but not the script, you allow for that flow while still maintaining the integrity of the structure. So I'm not all over the place in my conversations. Again, I know the map. I know I'm going from building rapport to where are you now? Where do you want to go? What's been in the way? What have you tried? Like, can I truly help you? So I know that conversation. And because of that, I allow myself to be so present in the moment and not just focused on what's the next question to ask them. Another part of this that I want to touch on is that if you genuinely could not help them, don't try. That honesty is what makes people earn your trust. And I know too many people have been sold to something that they didn't even need, but that person was so focused on closing the sale that it didn't even matter if they could help that person. And for me, again, I talked about ethics. That's so important to me. That's one of my values, is that we only sell in service for someone. So if we feel like we can't help them, we are honest about that. And if we can refer them to someone else who's better suited to do that, we do that for them. And when you come on a call with that energy, even without saying it, maybe you're saying it, but even without saying it, that's felt at an energetic level. Point number 5, your offer shouldn't be a pitch. It should be the next natural step. So what do I mean by that? When you have a gap that you've identified in this buying conversation with your prospect, and you know that you can close that gap for them, the offer is just how you help them get there. So we don't need to convince or create any pressure around the decision making. You like, even people use the word convincing people or proving to them. It's like, you don't have to talk anyone into anything. If they've seen the path and they understand how you can take them from point A to point B, then it's the next natural move for them. There need not to be any objection handling or tactics to force or pressure or convince anybody of anything. Do you feel what I'm saying energetically? Is like the moment you feel you have to say it in a specific way to get an answer, you're moving away from the point of what is happening here. It's about creating this conversation where they feel that you've listened, you've understood, you can help them, and you've got something to help them. It's not about saying it in a specific 30-second elevator pitch or the offer part or how to package it and the discounts or the bonus or the lists of all of the things you include. Like, you're on the wrong path if that's how you're thinking about it. So for me, the whole thesis behind it is selling is not something you do to someone, it's you do it for them. So when your offer becomes the next natural step for them, it is the most effortless decision-making process. It becomes an easy yes, or it becomes an easy no if we're being honest about it. Because again, we're rooted in that belief, that core belief that we're there to help them. That's what it's all about. So I hope that from these, examples and perspectives that I've shared with you on how I view sales, that you've seen an example that sales doesn't have to feel icky, and it could be done in this sophisticated, eloquent, and ethical way. And we don't have to follow the sales bros. I love this era of women entrepreneurship where we're learning how to do business in a way that feels really good for us. And the learning sales in a feminine and sophisticated and ethical way is a game changer for business. And I hope that this served as evidence for you that it's possible, that we don't need to follow the typical bro marketing tactics, and that there is a better way to do it. I want to remind you before we wrap this conversation that the moment you feel that bit of push or ick, remind yourself that this shouldn't feel like a performance and that the trust building comes from listening. So if you take one thing from today's conversation, is an invitation to listen deeper on your next call. Don't worry about memorizing what to say. Just get clear on where you're taking people, ask better questions, and talk less. If you do that, I promise you, you will never have to feel pushy again, because it won't feel like selling. It will just feel like helping someone. Ugh, it feels so good to say it in this way. I hope you got something from this, but most important, you know me, I hope you implement it right away. So, I'm always closing, always in buying conversations. I'd love for you to implement what I'm teaching you in your next buying combo and share any takeaways with me. Hop over on Instagram stories, send me a DM. That's where I hang out most. I'd love to hear your takeaways from today's combo. That's it for now, and I'll see you next week. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I know as a CEO that time is your most valuable asset, so let's make it worth it. What's one thing that you're going to implement or embody today? Because listening without action is just entertainment. So DM me your takeaway on Instagram @AuthenticGazzy. I want to hear it, and I promise you I will hold you accountable. And if this episode resonated, share it with a woman in your circle who needs to hear this. And if you haven't already, follow and subscribe so you never miss a Tuesday. I'll see you next week.